開出嚟，滿晒手。
My wife? Your wife's perfectly all right, sir.
Where is she?
Well, she's locked herself in her bedroom. She won't speak to me. Afraid she's rather hysterical, sir. I've been waiting for her to come out.
Leslie, open up.
Oh, God. Robert, why did it take you so long? Oh, I can't. Oh.
Oh, you're still here. I'm afraid we should get to the station so Mrs. Crosbie can make a proper statement.
She can make a statement here and now, and you can be on your way.
I'm sorry. Police routine, you understand?
Routine? I'd call this harassment.
I won't have to be arrested, will I?
Well, you see, Mrs. Crosbie, I'm afraid you're by way of being under arrest now.
That's ridiculous.
I'll just go and change. I won't be a moment.
Bloody swine tried to rape her. What more does she have to say?
It's just that we're all here, and I called him nearly 2 hours ago.
Yes, yes. I see. No, of course, Dorothy. Yes, of course.
Much better.
Are you sure?
Well, we all are.
They simply have no sense of how long our team must stay.
Yes, I'll tell her, Dorothy.
Thank you.
Of course. His driver left over an hour ago. He should be here. Dorothy is absolutely stunned. She says, tell Leslie, chin up.
Could we at least get on with some of the preliminaries?
Not without our solicitor. He'll put a quick end to this bloody routine of yours.
Robert, why don't you have some tea? Calm you down.
I'll calm down when Howard arrives and we can go home. You know Howard Joyce, don't you?
Of course.
Probably the finest legal mind in the colony.
I know, but still, I must have details.
But still, nothing.
Robert, perhaps it would be best if we did get into the preliminaries now. It might save some time later.
I think you've been through enough already.
Well, I suppose I'll have to do it eventually.
I insist that when we've finished here, we go straight to Dr. Bradley so he can look you over.
All right, really.
All right, get on with it.
How long have you lived in the colony?
8 years.
May 7th, 1931, to be exact. She was half dead when she got off the boat. Do you remember?
Seasickness.
With all that's happened, you'd have been just as well to stay in America.
American?
Oh, yes, originally I was working for a firm that was doing business with Mr. Crosbie in Melbourne.
Which is where we met.
I don't think that Mr. Withers is too interested in where we met.
No, of course not. We were transferred here 8 years ago.
Children?
No, I'm afraid I failed in that area.
I won't have you talking like that.
How would you have a talk, Bobby?
Howard. Your missus said you left home an hour ago.
I know. I am sorry, Leslie. It'll be all right. Withers?
I want her home. I want her to see a doctor. I want her out of this police station.
Could I see her statement, please?
We've hardly begun.
I still can't believe it was Hammond.
When that man was as sick as a dog, she took him into our home and looked after him like a coolie.
Well, what's happened, Leslie?
I don't want him in here.
All she's saying he's my chief clerk. He doubles as my driver only because I never find my way around these blasted streets without him. Got a first-class legal mind.
I will not have my wife humiliated in front of God and everybody.
Mr. Joyce, if it's all right, I'll wait outside in the car. I'd like to reread the brief in the Higgins matter.
Yes, very well. That's a good idea. Oh, you might have a valid point about that tax exemption for replanting. In 5 years' time, that young man will have his own law office and be taking away half my clients.
Yes, he's probably a very decent chap. But you know they talk. I will not have all the scum from Singapore to Penang gibbering and giggling about what happened to the Crosbie men.
Withers here?
Leslie, if I can think of some way to arrange bail, I have strict orders from Dorothy to bring you straight to our house.
If?
How many others?
How do you mean they might put me in jail?
Like hell they will.
He tried to rape me.
Well, do what you can for now.
So I understand, but when one admits to killing someone, well, we'll see.
I'm so sorry.
Mr. Joyce seems to think there might be a problem about bail.
I can't believe that.
It's all up to the Solicitor General, of course.
I hear he's a decent fellow. I'm sure he'll do everything he can.
Perhaps, Mr. Crosbie, but you see, it depends what the charge is.
What do you mean by that?
I think it's not unlikely that he'll say only one charge is possible, and in that case, well, I'm afraid an application for bail would be extremely difficult.
What charge?
Murder.
Stupid! Bloody stupid!
When would I have to go?
For God's sake, Howard, tell her she doesn't have to go to jail.
Bobby, the law's the law. The man's been killed. What happened with Hammond, Leslie? I'm sorry, Leslie, but it might be best to have it over with.
You'll do it rather slowly, won't you? I'm not very good at this thing.
Well, Robert was spending the night in Singapore, and he wanted me to go with him, but it was so hot, and I just decided to stay home. I never mind being alone. Planter's wife gets used to that.
I can't possibly keep up.
Well, look, why don't you just let Mrs. Crosbie tell us what happened and then do a summary?
Very good. I'll check any summary bloody carefully.
Bobby, go wash your face or something.
It's not your wife going through this nightmare.
I know, Bobby, but you're not making things any easier for her.
Right, really. I had dinner rather late, and then I started to work on my needlepoint. Must be in worse shape than I thought. I was reaching for my needlepoint. I thought I'd brought it with me. Anyway, it must have been about 10 o'clock. And of course, when I do needlepoint, it's so delicate. I wear spectacles, which blind me for everything but the needle. So, when I heard someone knock at the door, at first I couldn't tell who was there.
May I come in?
Isn't it rather late, Geoff?
My apologies.
Something the matter?
No, I just popped by on the off chance that you might like some company.
Oh, well, I didn't hear a car.
No. Well, I parked it down the road in case you were asleep.
May I fix you a drink?
How much?
Scotch and soda.
You remember.
Robert's away.
Is he?
In Singapore. Some business at the warehouse.
That's all right. I was just, feeling a touch lonely this evening. Does he leave you alone very often like this?
No, not often.
do you disfigure yourself with those terrible spectacles? I mean, is there some obscure reason why you try to make yourself look plain? There's a psychological theory, you know, about people who are always knitting, stitching.
Is there?
Like to hear it?
Not particularly.
All that concentration helps to empty their minds of everything else.
Fascinating.
Gnawing little longings, unladylike desires.
Uh-huh.
Hidden under the need to get that next stitch exactly right.
You like it? It's going to be a pillow for my Aunt Flora's birthday.
Such busy little hands. No, endlessly jabbing that stupid needle.
You've had too much to drink, Geoff.
Have you any idea how many years I've been in love with you?
That's not amusing.
No, amusing you is the least of my goals.
Oh, good night, Geoff.
No, you're partly right. I was half drunk when I arrived.
Well, then I forgive you, but I'd still like you to go
Well,
now.
Forgive me? For what? Bless the whiskey. Finally gave me the courage to tell you the truth. I adore you.
Making me very angry, Geoff. I'm already in love with my husband, and even if I weren't...
Shut the door. And sit down. Let me watch you work on your Aunt Flora's pillow.
I'll call the servants. I'll have you thrown out.
You are such a fraud. I mean, I remember when I was in that bedroom dying of fever, and you looked after me 24 hours a day. I'll never forget when you used to come towards me. I used to look at that pulse in your neck. It was beating wildly, like a hummingbird. Like now.
I'm very confused about what happened next. All I know is he followed me into the bedroom. I was terrified I was going to faint. Somewhere in my mind, I remembered the gun that Robert...
That's enough.
Hold me. Please, hold me.
Look, I'm sorry, but the shooting itself, could you tell us something?
Don't you think she should have?
Bobby, please. We're almost through. Of course she should have. She'd every right to.
Well, then stop torturing her like this.
Really so tired.
It's just that the gun was... Well, you fired 6 times.
I don't really remember very much about the gun. I heard it go off. And he staggered back. And then I was amazed to see that it was in my hand. And then I was so revolted, so revolted. Just wanted to keep shooting him. Shooting him, shooting him. Then I heard it click. And it was empty. And I was sorry that it was empty.
No touching the prisoner, sir.
Here, stop that. I told you to stop at 154. Don't get here. Move back.
Don't look so glum. I already know they turned down bail. Howard told me a while ago.
I think we should get rid of Howard. Get someone better.
No, there is no one better. He warned us there'd be problems.
Yes. Keeps giving me the same speech. Only under exceptional circumstances. My God, aren't these exceptional circumstances? You go mad in this place.
No, I will not go mad. Howard says that within 2 weeks, with his influence, the trial should be on the calendar.
Yes, he says the jury won't even leave the box. They'll say innocent on the spot.
So,
Well, if they're sure to set you free, why are they putting you through this? Tell me. I don't know what to do.
Here's what you do. Go back to the bungalow, and you take the small piece of tan luggage off the shelf, and bring me my new white dress with the lace collar, the one I wore to lunch at the Webbs last month. Are you listening? And my white gloves, and my beige hat with a big brim.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Crosbie.
Oh, yes, of course. Oh, and Robert, this is very important. I must have my needlework. Just bring everything in the sewing bag.
Tomorrow.
By the time I leave here, I'll have so many Christmas presents to send back home. You won't forget.
I won't forget.
It's all right, sir. When I heard about Mr. Crosbie, I knew you might need help finding the hotel.
Well, I'd be utterly lost without you. Of course, you know that.
And I learned so much from you, Mr. Joyce.
Now, you say that with such profound sincerity. You'll be a wonder in the courtroom.
I mean it, sir.
Well, who knows? Perhaps in time you might even develop a genuine respect for our law. Our Anglo-Saxon law is not so bad, you know. It's all that keeps savagery at bay. What? Police? What did you tell him?
Really nothing, sir.
Who are you? I mean, besides Ong Chi-Seng, my chief clerk.
Being your chief clerk is quite sufficient, sir.
The security officers called me more than once about you.
Being of Chinese blood, I do not favor the Japanese invaders of my country, sir.
They think you're a communist.
They could never prove that, sir. Not in a court of Anglo-Saxon law. It's not far. The old man downstairs will take you to him.
You make everybody laugh, but not me. British jokes not funny. Only foolish girls laugh. Mẹ sao đó? Mẹ sao?
Sao mới không phải cháu đi theo nó với cái ngồi
Chị ố cảm giác tại dành lấy đám bộ lên sao là.
Hỏi ngọt trong suy đi. Nói chân cho pha nà lo vậy đã.
I go crazy. I'll blow my brains out.
Bobby, don't do this to yourself.
I packed all the clothing she asked for. I started for the jail. I couldn't go in. I just stood there on the street. I couldn't go in.
Bobby.
I can't bear to see her anymore like that. In a cage.
I do best I can, Tuan Joyce.
Hmm? Oh, that's fine, fine. Some more strong coffee.
Yes, Tuan.
She's all I've ever had, you know. I don't care if the plantation goes to seed. I hope the jungle takes over. At night, I drink until I fall unconscious. In the morning, I can't get up. And tonight, oh my God. Howard, you've got to promise me something.
Hmm?
Not a word about that to Leslie.
Of course not.
You've got to get her out of there, mate.
Mr. Joyce, you may rest assured that you have the apology of this court for any unnecessary delay or inconvenience that you may have suffered.
My lord, in good conscience, I must once again plead that my client be released on bail, at least until the trial has begun.
Mr. Joyce, it's only because of this court's deep respect for you that, that fan isn't doing the case much good, I'm sorry to say. Do you think you could be briefed, sir?
I shall do my best, my lord.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. You see, we can't open the windows because the insects will eat us alive, so we'll have to suffer. The confounded fan should have been mended. Mr. Garth, can you hear what I'm saying? It should have been repaired, if I may say so, before this court was called to order.
Yes, my lord. As you know, my lord, the actual trial has been delayed yet another week.
Yes, yes.
Another 7 days of incarceration for this poor lady who has already suffered shocking indignities.
Oh, dear, is this to be the substance of your argument, Mr. Joyce? Is the court obliged to once again wearily remind you that in a trial involving admitted homicide, bail's out of the question, except in the most unique situation?
I believe I have a unique situation, my lord. May I call a witness?
Well, now, what's happening now? You asked for a short hearing.
Just one witness, sir.
All right, then, turn it off. Now we're all going to supplicate, but at least in silence. Does the prosecution object to Mr. Joyce's request?
Prosecution, like his lordship, hopes only to survive the day.
Will Wardress Miss Betty Larkin please take the stand?
I am Chief Wardress in Wing R of the Changi prison.
And does Wing R have any special function?
It is reserved for European women.
And Mrs. Crosbie is in your charge?
If you must call it that. Heaven knows very little supervision is necessary. Mrs. Crosbie is a perfect lady. At the moment, she's making me a lovely collar.
And how many Europeans are in your custody?
None at this time.
There are non-Europeans in your custody?
37 by last count. And more to come, you may be sure about that.
In the European section 37, did you say?
Chinese, Malayan, Indians, and the endless in-betweens. But mostly Japanese, of course. Protective custody.
But none of these women are actually in Mrs. Crosbie's cell.
Mrs. Crosbie shares her cell with a prostitute, an Indian woman who I am certain is dying of tuberculosis, a Eurasian addicted...
There are strict regulations against that sort of thing, sir.
The prison officials are absolutely helpless, my lord. So many Japanese are being rounded up every day. So, would you say that the situation of Mrs. Crosbie's imprisonment is, unique?
This is scandalous. You can step down, madam. This hearing is at an end. You are hereby free to leave this court.
Bobby. Howard. With you never obey the rules. No one's allowed in here. The robe room's as sacred as a church.
You have a friend for life.
Well, you wait downstairs in the car.
We really can't stay in a hotel, Howard.
If you don't come back to our house, my wife will be on the next boat back to England.
Aren't we celebrating a bit prematurely? I mean, there still is a trial.
A trial? Tell her, Howard. You can feel quite hopeful, isn't it? All right, darling?
I can't thank you enough, Howard. I feel like I've just wakened from some terrible dream.
We'll see you in the car.
May I bring you other wig next time, sir?
Why? What's wrong with that one?
The band inside is a bit loose.
No. No, that'll do nicely.
I would like to add my compliments. You are masterful.
Then let's forget your contribution, Discovering that no white woman had ever shared a cell with a non-Caucasian. Don't tell me you didn't have, mixed feelings about that.
My feelings were not mixed, sir.
Still, once the trial begins, every man is absolutely equal, and don't you forget it. That's at the very core of the thing. That's the part I'll teach you to respect. It takes me a lifetime.
I respect you, sir. So when I hear your clients already celebrating the lady's freedom, well, sir, there's something about this case I think you should know.
Indeed. And, how many similar cases have you defended?
Please, sir, I think this is important evidence. I believe you should read this letter, sir.
This was written by a child.
That was my opinion. But when I refused to bring it to your attention, I was shown the original.
By whom?
By someone who knows I'm in your employ.
It's rubbish.
The handwriting on the original is identical to Mrs. Crosbie's writing in our files.
Well, what was I expected to do after reading it?
I don't know. But if the prosecutor were to introduce the letter as evidence...
Come on here, that tramp! I'm sorry. Getting her out of jail has taken more out of me than I admit. I truly am sorry. One moment. When this copy of the letter was passed on to you, I assume a price was quoted for the original?
Yes, sir.
I grant you that bribery is a way of life in this part of the world, but this is contemptible. Tell your friend. Yes? I asked only for Leslie.
Well, we're here to protest. We want Leslie for ourselves. Oh, is that where you're going to leave it? What do you think this big table is for?
Very sorry, ma'am.
He's impossible. He's as useless as the day he came here. Worse. You really could have called your friends at the War Office when our Singh got his draft notice. Oh, what a jewel that boy was. Now he's in some ridiculous uniform that probably fits him like a flour sack. Protecting us from what? By the way, this husband of mine still hasn't signed our petition. Oh, darling, we really can't have all those servicemen swimming around in the club pool.
They want it for only 1 day a week, my love.
And what kind of germs do you think they will leave in the water on that one day?
Leslie, would you ask them to go?
Go.
By God, I should have insisted on a hotel. So I could have you to myself.
You know, you're missing the 9 o'clock news.
I can't believe that devil's going into Czechoslovakia. Can you? Make Chamberlain look like an utter fool.
Bobby, really, Leslie and I have to prepare for her testimony.
I think it's bloody unfair. I mean, she's hardly had a day's rest, and you insist on putting her through that whole thing all over again.
I'm sure we won't be long, darling.
No, no time at all.
Wouldn't mind hearing the news.
Oh, why? I hate the news. It's always doom and gloom. Doom and gloom.
I don't know. Might be something on about the test match in Melbourne. You all won't stand a chance, you know.
Black, just a little sugar, right? Glad my memory hasn't deserted me. I'm sure I'll be needing it.
Your memory is remarkable, Leslie. I'm always amazed by it. By now, you've had to go over the events of that night, what, a dozen times?
At least.
Yet you never miss a single moment. It's always absolutely the same. Word for word.
And what does that suggest to your legal mind?
That you've rehearsed it like one does a scene from a play? Or you're telling the unvarnished truth?
Oh, I'll never forget a moment of that terrible night. Do you think I could?
Did you know for the last 7 months he'd been living with a Chinese woman?
Robert told me about it. He swore he'd never have the man in the house again. He was outraged.
I suspect a jury would feel exactly the same way. How did you feel about it when Robert told you?
Well, I hadn't thought about Geoff Hammond for months and months. The last time was at the McFerrin's garden party. I don't think I said 2 words to him then. That's why I was so surprised when he suddenly appeared that night.
He was once quite friendly with you and Robert.
Oh, yes, but one tires of people. We actually had very little in common. When Robert brought him to the bungalow when he had that terrible fever 2 years ago, we did everything we could for him, but your coffee's getting cold.
So the last time you saw him before the night he came by was at the,
McFerrin's garden party. Now, isn't this going to be beautiful? I'm really quite vain about it.
Leslie, something rather disturbing has come up. Someone's circulating a letter. Actually, I saw a copy in some awful Chinese schoolboy scrawl.
What? Attacking me is a devil? Well, I'm not that surprised. Quite aware there are cruel people in this world.
Well, the letter was allegedly from you to Hammond.
Well, over the years, Geoff Hammond and I wrote any number of letters to each other. When we were close friends, he was forever writing to us of one thing and another, and Robert's not much for answering mail, so I did it.
Well, this so-called letter was supposedly sent the night Hammond was killed.
From me? Well, that's impossible. Let me see it.
Robert's away for the night. I must see you tonight, or I won't be responsible for the consequences. Don't drive up. It's signed with an L, and it's dated the Thursday you shot Hammond. And I've read it over enough times to have it stick in my memory.
Well, I never wrote that letter.
Didn't you?
Well, of course not. What if the handwriting had resembled mine? What would you have thought?
I was told the original letter is in your handwriting.
Well, if it looks like my handwriting, then it's a forgery. Why would anybody do something like that?
Blackmail, possibly. But if the prosecution gets his hands on it, well, it could do immense damage. Your servants would be asked to explain the delivery of such a letter. You yourself would be required to explain why you asked Hammond to visit you when you knew Robert would be away for the night. But of course, any such letter would be a forgery, wouldn't it?
Of course, I've already told you that.
No, you're not telling the truth, Leslie. Look, I don't want to sound melodramatic, but your life could depend on it.
Why are you acting like this?
Because I believe the original letter exists in your handwriting.
That's impossible.
Stop lying. Why did you write to him?
Because Hammond was driving me mad. He was going to ruin everything.
Yes?
Oh, just getting lonely for my wife.
We'll be right with you.
You all right, darling?
It's something important, Bobby.
Yes, well, we missed the overseas news, but your missus was right. Terribly depressing. But you will join us as soon as you possibly can, won't you, darling? Promise?
What did you mean? He was going to ruin everything.
Oh, it's so miserably hot, isn't it?
Tell me, Leslie.
All right. I told you that we took Hammond in when he had that bout with fever. I hadn't intended anything to happen between us. I was just going to look after him until he was recovered. He was a most unusual man. I'll take it.
You've been lying to me.
What are you doing out of bed?
You've been lying to me. Shame on you. When I'd comment on all the attention I've been getting, flowers, and you insisted on telling me that you believed that your armor had fallen madly in love with me.
Well, now you get back into bed or you'll go without lunch.
No, I want to eat it here. while you play me a bit of Chopin, that piano in there.
Oh, well, that's just something to hold photographs. It's very out of tune. I haven't played for years.
Well, I'd feel very elegant. Doesn't have to be Chopin.
Don't be ridiculous.
All right. You eat. I'll play.
Half-caste woman, living a life apart. Where did your story begin? Half-caste woman, have you a secret heart? Waiting for someone to win?
I told you.
I'm bad enough on a tuned piano. Why don't you fix it?
Oh, well, Robert isn't keen on the kind of music I like.
What is he keen on?
I don't know what you mean.
Was he keen on pleasing you?
He's given me everything I have.
That's not what I meant.
Were you born with some queer magic in your shimmering gown? Is there something strange and tragic deep, deep down?
I can't torture this instrument any longer. Come on, you try.
Oh, no, I wouldn't. I would sound any better.
Well, prove it.
Terrible.
Oh, no, you're not.
I was the shining hope of my piano teacher way back when. Hard to believe, isn't it?
I believe it.
I'm going to practice 6 hours a day religiously, and then when you're all well and you come back for a visit, you won't believe how good I am.
Solo, aku tiada parente kau. Angkat timbulan itu ke gudang. Idiot.
Not in a very good temper, is he?
Oh, it's poor Robert's ego again. We went to the doctor's yesterday, and it seems the Crosbies aren't to be parents after all.
Oh, well, Robert may be disappointed, but I'm delighted. I mean, to say you get to keep that lovely figure. I like that.
Shame on you.
I mean it.
Stop it.
I won't. I won't.
So, patient's better.
Absolutely.
Well, look at this one. I hope she's not catching your fever. Your cheeks are as red as fire.
It's called blood, Robert. Women are permitted to have it, too, you know. Yes, I'm back to my ugly old self. You can throw me out any time you like.
You're not well enough yet to be out on your own.
Oh, regular little Florence Nightingale, isn't she?
You're a lucky man, Robert.
She'll do for now.
And I suppose that's how it started.
What started?
My relationship with Geoff Hammond.
But you've known him for years.
Oh, yes, but I just always thought of him as another one of Robert's drinking friends.
Yeah, I never could fathom why Bobby let him in the house in the first place. He must have... You both must have known his reputation.
As a womanizer. Yes, of course. But I never felt I held that kind of appeal for him. And Bobby certainly didn't worry about it. Of course, I wasn't a woman, was I? I was his wife, an altogether different species.
Still. Very beautiful.
Thank you. But of course, it would never have entered Robert's mind that a friend of his would make improper advances to his wife. But we know better, don't we, Howard? Are you sure you want to hear the rest?
I'm not presenting you. I'd best know the whole story.
Won't be terribly pretty, I'm afraid.
In my profession, the stories I hear seldom are.
I mean, it won't be pretty for you.
It's been 4 years, Leslie. I think whatever scars I had are gone now.
Scars? Oh, how terrible for you. I only have some lovely memories. They even come back to me on certain very lonely nights. But then, women are always more romantic than men, aren't they?
Don't you think you'd better be getting on with it? They must be very impatient for us to join them.
Too much reminiscing, Howard. All right, whatever you say. About a week later, I drove Geoff into Singapore to see the doctor. He got a clean bill of health, and then he bought some things so that we could have a picnic on the way home. To celebrate his recovery, he said, and to mourn his leaving our house. It turned into something quite different.
A loaf of bread, a jug of wine, and thou beside me in the colonial movies. Oh, don't do that.
What?
Get dressed.
Somebody might come by.
Nobody did. Nobody will. Sit down.
We've been here before.
Does it matter?
Yes.
Would you believe me if I said to you that as far as I'm concerned, I'm really here for the very first time?
I'd like to believe.
Where'd you go?
I don't know.
Yes, you do.
Well, it just seems so odd that back home, Robert is yelling at everybody and screaming at his assistants, keeping them all trembling.
And you're doing last-minute shopping in Singapore. Got to think of other things, you know.
What?
Other excuses, other errands, other shopping excursions, other lies, Leslie.
Oh, don't talk about that.
Oh, why not? You want to wallow in guilt? Frankly, I'm not very good at that. I'm very bad at that.
I wish I were.
Why? Guilt's not something you're born with. It's something you acquire. It's like absinthe or putting women on a pedestal. I don't believe it.
Oh, you're no better than a gypsy.
You hate that?
Obviously not. What did the gypsies ever worry about the future? What do they do for money?
Steal.
I could never do that.
You wouldn't steal for me?
Don't be ridiculous.
I'd steal for you.
Gypsy sounds strange and wild.
Oh, yes.
Make me feel strange.
Can we stop chattering now?
It went on like that for months. I just couldn't help myself. I suppose it was inevitable that even poor Robert sensed that something was wrong.
Are you asleep? There's something I have to ask you.
All right.
Have you stopped loving me? Why have you?
Stop being so silly. Go to sleep.
I'm an ox, and I know it. But there's something in my life I value. You.
Robert.
Everything's different between us. Don't tell me it isn't.
Why? Because we're not madly throwing our arms around each other anymore. When did we? We've always been a quiet couple, Robert.
There's nothing I wouldn't do for my little girl.
I know that. I know. was. Until several weeks later, Robert surprised me with something almost incredibly sweet.
When did it get here?
Oh, just before. What is it?
If you let her help, you might find out sooner.
Oh, Robert. What I think it is?
Let me help.
Oh. No, let me. Mine? Oh, my God, it's beautiful.
The man told me you couldn't get a better one in London.
I can't believe it. Oh. Gosh. Look. Gorgeous.
I hope you like these.
Tchaikovsky and Mozart, Chopin.
I told the man my missus was a genuine music lover.
But you hate this kind of music. It'll drive you mad.
Not having you would drive me mad.
You are such a dear man.
Am I listening?
It'll be all right. Let's just say I had a touch of fever, and fever always goes away. From then on, I avoided Geoff completely until I saw him by accident at the McFerrin's party.
We've challenged them to a match later, but I don't think there's much hope.
Oh, nonsense. Bunny's been drinking all afternoon. He won't be able to see the ball, much less hit it.
Leslie?
Oh, I'll catch up with you later.
How many more appointments are you going to forget about?
Oh, please.
I waited 3 hours.
Robert's just coming along.
Blast Robert. Be at Collier's Quay tomorrow at 4 o'clock.
No.
I can't tell you how furious I'll be if you're not there. You know that little coffee house? What the hell has happened, Leslie?
I suppose sanity has returned, Geoff.
Mine's not. I'm still completely mad.
Hello.
Thank you.
Haven't seen you in a dog's age. Somebody told me you joined the RAF and were off to Africa or somewhere like that.
Wouldn't dream of leaving here.
Good. You'll become a regular. I like that. I was beginning to think that perhaps you were rejecting us.
On the contrary.
What's the matter with him?
You're pulling my leg.
After that, Geoff began acting so irresponsibly, I had to get him to stop. So I sent him that letter.
Do we have another crisis on our hands? Don't take them off. Leave them on. They do wonders for you. Make you look like every other silly cow in this marvelous place.
Haven't you had enough to drink, Geoff?
No. No, I haven't. You call me over here in the middle of the night. Come, or I will not be responsible for the consequences. Then I can't even have a tot of whiskey. Oh, but I forgot, of course, you people in this colony are so famous for your hospitality.
I didn't ask you here for cocktails.
And I didn't come for cocktails.
I asked you here to tell you once and for all that whatever we had is over. And you have to stop pretending it isn't.
Whatever we had. You know bloody well what we had, and you loved every minute of it.
Then please, because of what we had, don't let it end so horribly.
It's late to start worrying about that now, isn't it? I waited at the coffee house until they closed. Then I went to the club to look for you.
Yes, I heard. That's why I sent you the note.
What did they say? Wasn't on my best behavior? You blame me?
Robert's going to know everything. Is that what you want?
Can't wait.
Why? What good will that do?
And what mustn't Robert know? That just before her sewing spectacles froze permanently to the tip of her nose, Robert's little bird fell head over heels in love.
I was already in love with my husband.
And me?
Well, that was... You were different.
And better than anything I've ever known. Your very words.
I was infatuated.
You fraud.
That's all it was, Geoff. Please, try to understand.
Infatuated? God, I'd like to strangle
Why are you doing this? Why won't you just let it end?
Can't stand rejection. It's against my nature.
You're not exactly living in desperate loneliness. Everyone in Singapore knows you have a Chinese mistress.
Is that what everyone's saying? About a little Chinese coolie lady who, for 5 shillings a week, keeps my house clean. You, only woman that means anything to me.
So don't send me any more frantic notes in the middle of the night about Robert. Summon me only if you want to take me to bed. And Robert will know. Rest assured about that. Robert? Robert, have you heard? It's true. Leslie and that Hammond fellow, they are bloody scandal.
Get out of here.
Oh, don't be ridiculous, Leslie. You don't want me to leave, and you know it.
Go away. I'll call the servants.
No. Won't.
It's so lovely. Why are you making it ugly?
Leslie, now, come on. Now, we have the whole night, so let's stop jabbering on like this.
What's happened to you?
What?
You're so gentle.
I am gentle. I'm unbelievably gentle. That coffee house, they looked at me like I was a bloody fool. Their eyes were filled with pity as if to say, poor chap's been stood up. Don't ever do that to me again.
Oh, no. Leave me alone.
Oh, Leslie, you want it just as much as I do. Leslie. Come on. The gun. Come on, the big bad gun.
Now you can see why I couldn't tell the truth. It would have destroyed Robert.
Are you sure it's Robert you were worried about?
There was a time when you had a higher opinion of me, Howard.
Yes. There was a time when I had a higher opinion of myself.
So how will the jury react to all this?
Who knows? 12 strangers from all walks of life. If there's anything I've learned in my practice, it's that wagering on horses is safer than predicting juries.
And an adulteress wouldn't be your ideal defendant, would she?
Well, no, it's not so much that. It's the letter itself. It'd be a bombshell, of course, and the fact that you lied about it.
I didn't lie about it.
You never mentioned it. That's just as damaging. Since you weren't altogether truthful about that, well...
Why should they believe anything I say?
Yes, it certainly makes things more difficult for us.
They'll never understand, will they?
Understand?
What it's like to be the wife of a rubber planter. What it's like to sit out your life on some sweaty, miserable plantation. Miles from anywhere, from anybody. It's like being set down in hell. Being punished for something you didn't do. Nothing to do. Day in, day out. Except watch yourself get older and more dried up. Nobody noticing, nobody caring whether you even exist. Every dream you ever had just melting away under that damn boring sun. And then one day somebody does come along and does notice, and you can't deal with it. You simply can't deal with it.
Was that what I was too? Just someone who came along?
You were the first.
And Geoff Hammond was the second?
No, Geoff Hammond was the last. Sorry to spoil your illusions, Howard, but you can't have many left anyway.
No, I suppose not.
If you were to bet on a jury, which way would you go?
I'd say there was a chance for acquittal.
Which means they could also find me guilty.
Leslie, you might as well know the truth. If the jury believes only the letter and decides everything you said was a lie, they could hang you.
But you could get an acquittal.
Well, I could. I really do know my way around a courtroom, but the whole thing, well, it's chancy.
Even with an acquittal, the letter would be made public, wouldn't it?
If it's delivered to the prosecution, of course.
So at best, Robert and everybody else will know, and at worst, I could hang.
Manslaughter is also possible. After all, he still tried to rape you.
Letter! Isn't there some way to get it somehow?
Of course there's a way to get it. Obviously, it's for sale. My clerk's already been quoted a price.
Well, then buy it.
Leslie, a lawyer has a duty not only to his client, but also to his profession. Knowingly suppress evidence, there's nothing worse. The lawyer could be disbarred, sent to jail himself.
I want that letter, Howard.
No, I just explained that.
I heard you. And I'm sorry to put you in this position, but I don't think either one of us has much choice, do you?
Oh, you're wrong, Leslie. Legal representation has its limits, and I absolutely
I am not
refuse.
talking about our legal relationship.
Leslie.
You and I were lovers, Howard. In Robert's own bed. I betrayed my husband and my best friend, just as you betrayed your wife and your best friend. I don't think either one of them would take that very well, do you?
You know what you're saying.
I want that letter.
Good evening. Is this the Ong household?
Sure.
My name is Joyce. Howard Joyce.
Oh, Joyce 先生。哦，进来。进来，请动线啊。知心啊，你的老板来到了，他进来了，快点。
Good evening, sir.
Please.
I hope I'm not disturbing you.
Oh, it's quite all right.
Oh. I recognize your left-wing hero, Sun-Yat-sen. And of course, this pompous gentleman in the robe. Who's the soldier?
My father, sir. He served 18 years in the Malayan infantry.
The medals, obviously with great distinction. Where is he now?
In the native section of military cemetery in Johor, sir.
I'm sorry.
Oh, the government treated us quite fairly. I was able to go to law school. My mother still receives 18 shillings a month.
Should last her all of 3 days.
Amy. Your coming here has turned my brothers and sisters into magpies, sir.
Yeah, you weren't easy to find. I went back to the office and went through a dozen files for your address. It's almost midnight. Do the children always work this late?
Oh, no. An unusual number of funerals tomorrow, so, of course, endless paper flowers.
I could have waited until tomorrow morning at the office, but frankly, I thought the office would be the wrong place. I suspect we can't waste a moment's time, so...
We have time for the letter, sir.
How do you know that?
I told the woman who has it. She'll be hearing from you in due course.
You were that sure of me, were you?
Here you are, Mr. Joyce. Sir. She lives several hours' drive from here. She'd like us not to be too late.
Wouldn't she now?
I'm sorry, Mr. Joyce, but as you know, among my people, punctuality is taken more
Mrs.
seriously.
Crosbie will be here. Don't worry.
It's not mine to worry. Would you mind if I smoke, sir?
Yes, I'd mind very much. Does it matter to you that £5,000 simply wipes them out?
The woman set the price, sir.
And you naturally did your best to have her take less.
No, I did not.
What do you get out of it?
Among many things I've learned as your employee, sir, is not to be unreasonable.
5%? 10?
A fair fee.
Which will go directly to your radical friends, so that life can get even worse around here.
Thank you.
I should dismiss you, of course. No doubt you view my ethical principles with some amusement, if not outright contempt. But well, it wouldn't be very wise to send you packing, would it?
I would regret no longer being in your office, sir.
Oh, why? Did you miss my little homilies on the sanctity of the law? These people are very dear to me. How could I let them be destroyed? What's to be gained? Who'd benefit? Is that picture of me still on your wall?
Of course, sir.
Take it down.
It's my wall, Mr. Joyce.
In a few years' time, when I stand before the bar, accused of being an imperialist, an exploiter, and you quite possibly sit up there on the bench, Chief Justice Ong Chi saying...
Sir, don't.
Oh, yes, yes. No robe or wig for you fellas, probably just a cheap shirt, sandals. Well, you might show a certain leniency. Here she is. Any problem?
No, no problem. Whenever Robert was ill, I picked up the payroll money for him many times. It's right here.
Then we'd better get on with it.
Why do I have to take it to her?
That is one of her conditions, Mrs. Crosbie.
Well, tell her I'm not well.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Crosbie, but she was specific about the entire transaction. You must hand over the money yourself.
But I'm sure when she sees all this money, she'll be quite content.
Her conditions are non-negotiable.
You take it to her. You give it to her.
No.
If we are late, I cannot predict what she will do. Okay. We have to wait here.
She lives here?
Her late husband was a successful merchant.
She certainly doesn't seem to be in any desperate need of cash.
She isn't, sir.
And please tell her she's ruining them. She's taking every penny they've got.
She already knows that, sir.
Are you all right?
No, of course I'm not all right. I'm scared to death.
I don't understand it. Why does she bother going through all this? Why doesn't she just give the letter to the prosecution? Wouldn't she rather see Mrs. Crosbie go to jail? Possibly hanged?
Having lived in Singapore all her life, she believes nothing would happen to Mrs. Crosbie.
She's wrong.
请上楼。
She'll see us now.
Well, where is she?
In her time. An Tai Tai, 您好吗?
好。
She speaks only Malayan and Chinese.
Well, ask her if she has the letter.
对不起，但要问你本身你有没有?
有。
She has it.
Well, where is it? What is she waiting for?
告诉他，把帽子脱掉。
不必要吗?
一定要。
I'm sorry, Mrs. Crosbie, but she requests that you take off your hat.
Now, tell her we have the money and let's be done with it.
Crosbie 太太，那钱来了。
告诉他，把钱拿过来给我。
I told her you have the money. She asks that you hand it to her.
I've done what she asked and I've brought it to her house. That's all I'll do.
她说她已经把钱送到你家里来了，她只能做到这样。
All right, all right.
One moment. Tai Tai Doi Umzi. Well?
减少说更的，这件事情稍快一点结束。
She'd like to finish this as quickly as possible.
있어.
说的对了。
No complicating motives, no possible premeditation. Gentlemen, I believe there is no need for eloquence. If ever there was a simple, uncomplicated case, it is this one. Mrs. Crosbie killed a man, yes, but under circumstances where no courageous, self-respecting woman would hesitate for one instant to do the same thing. Nor is there need for me to extol Mrs. Crosbie's character. Her own testimony in the witness box, her bearing throughout this ordeal, stamp the character of this remarkable woman. More than words of mine could possibly do. As for the prosecution's case, not one jot of evidence has been produced to refute the defendant's testimony. Why? Because no such evidence could possibly exist under the light of truth. Gentlemen, in full faith and confidence, I place Leslie Crosbie's fate in your hands. Secure in the knowledge that justice will be done.
The prisoner will rise. Members of the jury, have you reached a verdict upon which you are all agreed?
We have.
You find the prisoner at the bar, Leslie Judith Crosbie, guilty or not guilty of the murder of Geoffrey David Hammond?
Not guilty, my lord.
I told you. Yes.
I told you.
Permit me to congratulate you, sir.
Hello, Mr. Withers. How are you?
Oh, I'm fine, thank you. I just wanted you to know how pleased I am with the result of the trial.
Thank you.
You've been a marvel through the whole thing. Just had to tell you.
Well, that's very kind of you, Mr. Withers. Thank you.
No more for me, thanks. I've work to do. You're just saying that so the rest of us will feel guilty or more efficient.
Oh, Rob, you can't leave until Robert gets here. Oh, he'd be so disappointed.
Yes, I know, but the trial preparations put me way behind.
And if you hadn't gotten Leslie acquitted so quickly, you would have had to spend at least a month sleeping in the servants' quarters. Oh, you have to stay and celebrate.
It's all right, Howard. I'll explain to Robert.
Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you.
Hello.
Robert, where have you been? You're late.
I'm sorry. Could I see you for a minute? You too, huh?
No, you have to stay and help us celebrate.
give the three of us a moment and we'll join you for a real celebration. In the billiard room.
Excuse me.
He may be having a quid, but I'm not. He just made a break of 18 and left me nothing. How do I get even?
You'll have the room back in 5
Robert,
minutes.
surely there must be some other...
This will do nicely. Come on, Norman.
Right.
Look, are you sure this concerns me?
Well, it concerns you if you can spare a friend £1,000. You won't regret it. Might even make money. Isn't it a beauty? It's the chance of a lifetime, I tell you. It's in Sumatra. I'll be working for myself, not sweating my life away for other people. It belongs to him like a Chinaman who's in financial trouble. He's got to have the money right now. Well, I can get most of it from the bank, but I am a bit short. Well, I'm not that short. I mean, I have £5,000. I only need £1,000. With all this war talk, I mean, the price of rubber is bound to go sky high.
Bobby.
What's the matter with you two? Don't you have the faith I can do it?
I'd lend you the 1,000 in a minute.
I can go to the bank first thing in the morning.
Robert, there's no money in the bank.
There was a piece of evidence which would have been devastating. It had to be dealt with.
What evidence?
Bobby, I think you know I'm your friend.
Look, will you or my wife please tell me what it is we're talking about?
Leslie's free now. You've many, many years ahead of you. Just take my word for it that what was done was absolutely necessary.
What could have been worth £5,000?
Bobby, as your friend, I'm telling you, forget it.
He can't do that.
Well, what's the big secret? Doesn't my money make me a part of all of this?
Of course, Robert, absolutely. We had to purchase a letter.
£5,000 for a letter? My God, it must have been some letter. Where is it?
I burned it as quickly as possible.
Without talking to me about it?
In my opinion, the letter was nothing more than a clever fraud, but I simply couldn't afford to take the chance.
What was in it? What did it say?
Bobby, buying that letter cost me just about all of my self-esteem. For my sake, will you please drop it?
Self-esteem? It appears to have cost me everything I had.
But then, in the name of our friendship...
Howard, you're wasting your time. I don't intend to spend the rest of my life listening to Robert ask me what was in that letter. It was from me to Geoff Hammond, inviting him to the house the night he was killed.
Leslie, you mustn't.
Why not? I made a foolish mistake which has cost Robert dearly. Why shouldn't he know about it? It's so stupid.
Why did you invite him to our house?
Because your birthday was coming up and I had to do something so special that I ended up ruining us. How long have you been talking about a certain shotgun? You mentioned it to Hammond last time we met, don't you remember? You said that with the Japanese problem, if you had a gun like that...
You asked Hammond to get one for you?
Well, at least tell me where to get it. You know how ignorant I am about such things.
I told you I was getting a shotgun from a bloke at the club. Yes, I did.
Well, then I forgot.
You never forget anything.
See how absolutely hopeless it is.
Buying that letter was a criminal offense, wasn't it?
Well, it's not the sort of thing a respectable lawyer would do in the ordinary course of business.
Was it a criminal offense?
Yes, it was. I could be disbarred for it.
Well, why on earth did you do it? And you of all people. What are you trying to protect me from?
Robert, Geoff Hammond and I had been having an affair ever since he stayed at the bungalow.
Can you give us some idea about how long we have to wait?
I can't justify it. I won't even try. It was an insane infatuation. Every time we met, I hated myself for it, and still I lived for the moment when I'd see him again. It was horrible.
in a moment when I was at peace with myself, when I wasn't reproaching myself. Oh, I was like some person with a loathsome disease and doesn't want to get well. And then suddenly it was over. Thank God it was over. That day you brought me the phonograph. I don't know, I just came to my senses, I suppose. I thought I'd ended it, but he was brutal. He couldn't bear rejection. That day at the McFerrin's party, he almost told you then.
I'd have killed him myself. Did you know about this?
Yes, Bobby, I'm afraid I did.
He made a terrible scene right here at the club. And I knew you'd find out and be so hurt for something that should never, ever have happened. And I just felt so utterly helpless. I sent him the letter because I had to try to convince him to stop before he destroyed us. And then when he came to the house that night and I tried to reason with him, his answer was to... Oh.
Did you mean what you said about loaning me £1,000?
Of course.
Could you make it 1,500?
Yes, I suppose so.
It's got to be done tonight. I'll have to get cracking. Harry Peters offered me a loan. There are a few other blokes. I'm a damn good risk, you know.
Yes. Yes, Bobby, you are.
We'll have the place. We'll get out of this stinking sewer. Singapore. We could live within 100 miles of it and not be made filthy. Leslie? It was me you chose, not him, right? Well then, could you write me that check now?
Absolutely.
You know, I couldn't live 3 days without you. We're going to forget that there ever was a Malaya, Singapore. This new place, it's a regular Garden of Eden. We'll be like bloody Adam and Eve, and that's no joke. I mean, the nearest village is 80 miles, and that's 5 tin huts. We'll mean more to each other than we've ever meant before. We'll be everything to each other. Me and my missus. We're going to forget that Singapore ever existed.
God, Ronald, what are you saying? I won't do it. I won't spend the rest of my life marooned on another grubby, miserable plantation as though I was some sort of hideous leper. I won't do it. You understand? I won't be set down in the middle of another hell with nothing to do but watch you get drunk every night.
Leslie.
And listen to you jabbering on endless, boring platitudes. I won't spend the rest of my life living another lie. I can't.
What lie?
Everything's a lie. Every minute of the last 8 years.
Damn it, then. Tell me the truth.
All right. All right. That's the very least you deserve, isn't it? Geoff Hammond came to the bungalow that night because I had to see him again.
Sending a letter like that was quite stupid. Robert's going to find out everything.
What mustn't Robert know? Just in the nick of time, before her spectacles froze permanently to her nose, Mr. Crosby's little bird fell head over heels in love. whether you know it or not, for the very first time.
Leslie. We were infatuated.
Infatuated? Infatuated?
Leslie, why are you doing this? Why don't you just let it end? These little things always do, you know.
Dare you? How dare you?
For God's sake, leave me alone! You have a life.
You and Robert were fine before you met me.
In this dreary place, with all these dreary, stuffy people. Fine. Until you came along, I was suffocating.
It's no fault of mine.
And how happy are you with your new whore? How can you bear to even touch her? Do you scrub yourself after?
Yes. And I burn the bedclothes and fumigate the house. You splendid ladies with your picture hats and your white gloves and your shallow, boring ways.
Oh, when did I ever bore you? My gypsy soul, my wild spirit, your words.
What can I say? That whore's the only woman I've ever been honest with in my whole bloody life.
You can't go. You can't go. No, please.
Leslie, don't be ridiculous.
I'll be anything you want. I'll do anything you want.
You can't.
No.
You can't be her.
Is that what you want? A servant? Is a real woman too much for you?
Silly, vain little creature. You don't even know what a real woman is.
Damn it, Leslie, you gotta stop all these hysterical things, frantic notes and it. Well, you only knew how ridiculous you looked.
Why did you have to tell me?
I don't know. Isn't there something in the Bible about the truth setting you free?
Oh, you're free, all right. You killed a man in cold blood. And you're free and clear, thanks to you. A man's dead. Doesn't that mean anything to you?
8 years and you still don't know me at all, do you?
Standing there, like nothing happened. Like maybe you just finished another bit of that bloody needlework of yours. No punishment, nothing.
No punishment? How can you be so stupid? Geoff Hammond was the only man I ever loved. The only man who, when he just looked at me, I'd... dead. And I killed him, and that's what I have to live with for the rest of my life. My God, what kind of punishment do you want?
What's wrong? Ask that murdering slut.
Poor Howard.
For that, I destroyed evidence. Spit on everything I value in my life. What are you going to do?
Do you really care?
No. I suppose I don't.
Then we still share some feelings, don't we?
I may still forgive you.
Goodbye, Howard.
Oh, there she is. Do tell me, what kind of nails are they wearing? Oh, my dear.
Of assistance to you, madam. No food, no house, fortunately. Lady, wanna have a good time, huh?
Just wanted you to know how pleased I am with the result of the trial.
Thank you.
You've been a marvel through the whole thing. Just had to tell you.
Well, that's very kind of you, Mr. Withers. Thank you.
No more for me, thanks. I've work to do. Are you just saying that so the rest of us will feel guilty or more efficient?
Oh, Rob, you can't leave until Robert gets here. Oh, he'd be so disappointed.
Yes, I know, but the trial preparations put me way behind.
And if you hadn't...
ABC Theater of the Month. A world television premiere.
A man's dead.
Was it self-defense?
No! He tried to rape me.
Or was it murder?
They're not telling the truth, Leslie.
The secret was in the letter.
The handwriting on the original is identical.
You can't be her!
Is a real woman too much for you?
You don't even know what a real woman is.
Remick in Somerset Maugham's classic, The Letter. Tonight's ABC Theater of the Month presentation. Brought to you by DuPont, makers of better things for better living.